Guys, I'm really happy to welcome a new guest, Congressman Clay Higgins from Louisiana's 3rd District. He's a member of the House Freedom Caucus. He also serves on the House Homeland Security Committee and senior member of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee. You can follow him on Twitter at Rep. Clay Higgins. His website, clayhiggins.house.gov. Clay, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you. It seems like every single day there's some new revelation about the Biden family, not just Hunter Biden, but Joe Biden and the kind of family operation they appear to be running. Let me start by asking you, what is the level of concern about all this on your part and also the part of your colleagues, Republican colleagues in the House?
Well, our concern is primarily focused on whether or not our executive branch is compromised in some way, and unfortunately, the deeper we go into the investigation, the more it appears that's very likely to be the case. I mean, Hunter Biden and his behaviors and his struggles in life are of zero concern to us congressionally. But the fact that the Biden family, who we now refer to as the Biden crime family, have no doubt, according to bank records, which are quite reliable sources of investigative material, according to bank records, the Biden family, including Hunter and President Biden, have been involved in receiving large sums of money from overseas nations in exchange for apparently the access to the power that Joe Biden had as vice president, and the concern now is whether or not that compromise and that behavior, that criminal behavior from years ago, has extended into a compromised executive branch for the United States of America, a compromised president, may I add, inaugurated president of the United States. So we're very concerned, Dinesh, that the evidence we're revealing is quite legitimately indicative of criminal behavior. But we're not interested in Hunter at all, other than by virtue of the fact that he was essentially the point salesman, shall we say, for selling access to his dad. And then the laundering of payment is where the rest of the family members got involved, so that they could disperse those payments throughout the Biden family in the effort to conceal that money. That's what we're revealing, and it's startling to observe. It's shocking.
Now, am I right in understanding that even though there's a lot of focus on Gary Shapley and the IRS whistleblower and the tax element of this, which is that all this money comes in, you don't seem to have disclosed it or paid taxes on it, the real issue here isn't just the taxes, it's the legitimacy of the transactions in the first place, isn't it? In other words, it's the idea that Joe Biden and the Biden family were selling something, and now the question becomes what? Right? I notice a lot of mainstream media are not covering this, but let's just say that they were to cover it. Can you think of a legitimate defense here? Could they say, you know what, we're not selling political influence. We're actually selling, I don't know, apples. We're selling widgets. Do they have anything else to sell?
It's an important point, Dinesh, because you have, in any investigation, a criminal investigation, you have to take on the perspective of what we refer to as the reasonable man. So any reasonable assessment of the transactions that the Bidens were involved in, they were selling something, you're right. And the only thing they had to sell in these shell businesses that they set up, the shells were empty. It's why they're called shells. There was nothing there. It was selling they had no product nor service to sell. So a reasonable man would presume and the corroborative evidence that we've observed from other sources, emails, telephone conversations, whistleblower testimony, the corroborative evidence seems to support the reasonable conclusion that they were selling access to Joe Biden. And that's it. I mean, he was a senator for a long time. And if you think about the access to information and the access to stakeholders and very powerful men and women across the country and indeed the world that a long-standing senator would have, and then look at the power he would have as vice president for 8 years, and now as inaugurated president of the United States, it's quite clear that Joe Biden has a tremendous amount of influence across the world. And it's quite clear that Hunter Biden and the rest of the Biden crime family had nothing else to sell to these nation states other than access to Joe Biden. And why would they want access to Joe Biden? Because of his influence. So that is specifically, that's influence peddling. That is, it's against the law. And further, it endangers the stability of the United States of America and the integrity of our interactions with nation states across the globe that rely upon us for the integrity of our executive branch. And if our executive branch is indeed compromised, Dinesh, then Congress must act, and the DOJ must act, although we have very little confidence in this DOJ. They've been involved in concealing some of this stuff.
Let's take a pause. When we come back, more from Congressman Clay Higgins.